today. My name is Krista Ross. I'm CEO here at the Fredericton Chamber of Commerce. I want to let you know that we are recording today's session and we will be sharing it afterwards on our YouTube channel and through social media for those that couldn't attend, or if you have things that you want to refer back to. During the presentation, we're a small group. We can probably raise our hands for questions, or if you prefer, pop them in the chat and we'll get to them afterwards. I'm really excited that we're launching a new benefit for the Fredericton Chamber of Commerce members. It's through the Canadian Chamber of Commerce and CIRA, which is the Canadian Internet Registry Association. We're really excited about it. It's a cybersecurity awareness training. And I want to tell you that we are one of the first chambers of commerce in Canada to launch this training for our members. And I think it's probably because Fredericton is very cybersecurity aware. And we know that our members have been asking for these types of things. So we as a chamber have been an early adopter in launching the benefit, but we're also an early adopter in using the platform ourselves. Our team is on the dashboard and taking courses and doing quizzes and like knocking it out of the park and learning so much. We're making changes to some of our activities here at the chamber and how we do things because of what we're learning through the training. Something that's really, really interesting about this training is that, and most chambers, as they're introducing this to their members, they won't have this information to share. This is really special for Fredericton. The company that's been chosen by the Canadian Chamber of Commerce and CIRA to provide this training, quizzes, dashboard, etc. across the country is Beauceron Security. And Beauceron is located right here in Fredericton. So we're really proud of that. And to me, that makes this the biggest success story. I want to tell you that even though the program was, well, it's not even really launched yet. We've sent out a couple of flyers, but today's sort of our official launch. I'm excited to say that we've already had a member sign on to provide this training to their staff, Dns Collision Center. They are not going to be opening those documents that are coming in as phishing expeditions, and they're going to not write down people's credit card numbers anymore, and all those great things that we've been learning in cybersecurity training. So we're really proud of Dns Collision Center for being the first business in Fredericton to sign on to this training. And I wanted to let you know too that the Fredericton Chamber of Commerce is cyber certified. We've, because of our cyber certification and this type of training, we've been able to obtain cyber insurance, which is challenging to get in a business, but we've been able to get that because we are able to prove how cyber secure our behaviors are. So that's something you as companies might like to look at as well. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce our guest speaker and also the person who's helping us with this program. I have John Lewis, who's the product lead and marketing person for CIRA for this cybersecurity awareness training. He's going to be presenting today. We also have Lindsay Carreau. She's with CIRA as well. And I guess her role there is to help Canadian businesses and chambers and other organizations from coast to coast to coast to be more secure in their cyber dealings. So, like I said, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to John and to Lindsay. And I'm going to mute my mic, which if you know me is just a strange thing for me to do, to be muted. But I'll turn it over to you both now. And I thank you very much. I'm excited to learn more about this and for our members to learn more.
Thank you. Yes, and thanks. Nice to meet you all virtually or see you all. It's actually, John and I reside here in Ottawa. And I don't know about you, John, but I love the friendliness of the East Coast. And I actually found myself in Fredericton the first time ever in November, and I loved it. I had a great time. I stayed apparently in the wrong part of town. I didn't know, but I was supposed to stay somewhere cooler, but who knew? I mean, I needed to know you guys sooner. So next time I
don't identify what you're now identifying as the wrong part of town, because if one of us lives there, then
yeah. No, it wasn't that. It was like they wanted me to see the downtown and I wasn't downtown. I don't know. I was so lost. I was like, oh, it seems
Then
like it's all good.
Then you'll have to come back. That's all we can tell you.
Yeah, I didn't really get to experience it, although I did get to go to the gym and there's some good Starbucks there. So, for this Ottawa girl, that's fine. So anyway, we're here to talk about cybersecurity awareness training. CIRA, and John's going to throw up some slides here, but please don't feel like we're beholden to these slides. We will be happy to take this conversation a little bit informal if there's questions you have and so on. But I'll tell you a bit about CIRA and who we are. It's very relevant and why, as Krista says, I am coast to coast to coast with as many small businesses and private for-profit business, because we ourselves are a not-for-profit. And as an organization, we've been around since, just over 20 years. And our main job is to do the .ca. We, as you can see with John's lovely background, we are the stewards, the registry, we are the power behind the .ca. Our whole job, or 90% of it, or previously 100% of it, was to ensure that .ca stayed up and running, safe and secure. .ca as a top-level domain is a heavily and well-respected top-level domain globally because it's a safe place. Typically, we don't see a lot of cyber incidents coming from hackers that are using .ca addresses because we police that very heavily. You actually have to be a Canadian citizen and prove it to have a .ca. So that's where we started. So we have a mandate. Our mandate is to build a trusted internet for all Canadians. Our mandates refresh every 5 years, but they're always along the same lines. So how this story paints into us offering cybersecurity awareness training like any vendor that you would know in the market space is that we want to look at issues that impact Canadians and their safety as it relates to the internet. And so what do we know on the internet? We know that, it may be the biggest topic of the decade, which is that so much good comes from the internet. We already knew that, but now we know so much bad comes from the internet. There's a lot of hackers, there's a lot of malware, there's a lot of malicious intent, there's a lot of interfering with people's entire countries, democracies and so on. There's a crazy amount of stuff going on the web. We can't stop it all, but we can take it down and we can look at how that impacts Canadian business. And so CIRA offers a couple of cybersecurity solutions focused on protecting Canadians online. So we have a malware and ransomware blocking service, which is, we have one for enterprise, and recently we've actually introduced one for your home use. That is a free product, and John will mention that potentially later in the slide deck, but if he doesn't, we can always send you details. It's called Canadian Shield. It is free. Please feel free to go to CIRA.ca and look for it. You are welcome to use it in your home. I'm using it right now. And that protects me, my kids, and everybody else against a lot of malware and ransomware that could be introduced into my network. And we are all working from home, or many of us are, right? So that's relevant. But we're here to talk about cybersecurity awareness training. This program that we built initially, as Krista mentioned, with the Canadian Chamber, conceptually to offer to local chambers to basically impact their communities. So this is what we're doing today. I'm so excited about this because we know that, first of all, 60% of Canadian business is smaller, but we want to look at this from a community perspective. We want to say, how can we help the Canadian communities that we impact as a registry and as a not-for-profit focused on connecting Canadians with these types of problems? And so what better way than to get a local community and leverage a local and Canadian solution? Everything we do comes from a Canadian level. We say the word Canada about 100,000 times a day, I'm sure. I don't know how many times I talk about being Canadian in a day, but it's a lot. And I'm super proud to be Canadian. And I love that there are solutions out there that can really protect us with the Canadian infrastructure. So that's, and that will become even more relevant to us as time goes on, as it relates to the internet and bad actors who are hanging around on there. So that's my long spiel. That's my big, who's CIRA and why would you care about it? And that's something I want you to know. So as to how you can protect your business today, I'm going to let John speak a little bit to the issues that we see and what the solution is. And then at the end, I'll come back in and tell you how you can get involved if you're interested.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Lindsay. I think that's one of the best kind of intro descriptions of CIRA I've heard in a long while. So I think, yeah, this is a weird time to be on the internet, especially as we're looking at a, big election down south. It's kind of wacky to watch the internet and see how it works and what bad people are doing on it. So, but you're right, there's only so much that we can do as one single organization. And some of the initiatives that we're doing this past year, like Canadian Shield, like our awareness training program, I think are really powerful, cheap, easy programs to implement, whether you're by yourself at home or your small business. Super important. But today we'll talk purely about training, because I think it's almost an overlooked piece of cybersecurity. I think a lot of people, when they think about cybersecurity, the one thing they think about is, oh, it's only multi-million-dollar ransoms happening to big banks. No, it'll never happen to me. But then the other part of it too is, well, I can't really think about cybersecurity. It's a really expensive thing to do. It's you got to buy these big fancy, firewalls and whatever. And the reality is, well, one, attacks can hit anybody. 1 in 5 Canadian small businesses will face an impactful cyber attack every year. That's right from StatsCan. So an impactful attack being something that forces you to pay up a ransom because your systems are locked out. Employees can't work because systems are locked out. Customer data is stolen. That's an impactful attack. But even more businesses will actually just have random attacks that maybe don't do anything at all. So that's pretty spooky. I think last summer, my mom, Lindsay and I are both from Ontario, and my mom works at a little realty office just north of Toronto, and they got hit with a little ransomware attack last year. Not a very big attack, but it still ended up costing about $30,000-$40,000. And it doesn't take much to really just bankrupt a small business when it's an attack like that. So, even $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 can really be the difference between a business existing or not, which is super unfortunate. But it's the unfortunate reality of living and breathing on the internet right now. The other data point that we know about kind of cyber attacks is that the strong majority of them aren't coming from, these basement little hackers with their hoodies on trying to break into the mainframe type thing. It's really very simple scams, phishing emails, social media messages, fake phone calls, just throwing the net as big as they can go, hitting everybody with, you're going to be under arrest if you don't call the CRA right now kind of thing. Strong majority of attacks come from are that type of attack, and they're just hitting people at all times of the day, all times of the week, whether they're at home or at the office, and just praying that 1 in every 1,000 will fall victim for it. So that's kind of the state of cybersecurity today. But I think training is a really beautiful way of solving this problem without really relying on a whole bunch of technologies. Just kind of reinforce that it's not just not just American companies getting hit, not just around the world. Like, there are a lot of Canadian organizations getting hit. Here's a couple from this past few months. Manitoulin Trucking Company got hit. That was literally 2 months ago, if that, or 2 months. I don't even know time anymore. That was a month ago. The RCMP had another hack. I think that one actually, Halifax, that was out the East Coast as well. So, these are not massive attacks, relatively speaking. These aren't multi-million-dollar attacks, a little bit bigger compared to the average that a small business would face. But we're seeing these types of attacks in the news every single day. And I think why I bring this up really is that people are aware of the problem more than ever. So everybody, whether it's a technical person or not, they're seeing these types of headlines in local news and in mainstream news, but they don't really know what's kind of going on behind the scenes. They see these words of ransomware or hacks, and they see that it's happening, but they don't really know what's going on. They don't really know what their role is in kind of stopping that. And training is really here to educate people on what these things mean and how to kind of protect against them. Again, this is just me really juicing up the story here, but this was over the summer, Twitter's biggest hack ever. And again, this was a massive company with very big, beautiful, expensive cybersecurity softwares. The accounts for the administrative accounts that got hacked had strong passwords. They had multi-factor authentication, but it all fell apart because an employee just got tricked by somebody impersonating somebody else. Like, it's really that simple. And I hope I'm not installing a bunch of, yeah.
John, I'm interrupting because you're getting some juicy stuff, but I can't see your screen.
Oh, that is very, very strange. Let me.
I'm sure it's probably the best slide ever.
Oh,
And
they're just little screenshots of news snippets. Let's try this.
there we go, John. It's coming.
All right.
It is.
I had a fear that was happening because I saw some numbers on my screen and I was like, I've never seen this before, but I'm also using 2 monitors, so I wasn't really sure what was going on.
Yeah.
Well, here's the 2 headlines that I was talking about from Canadian businesses. So one was a month ago, one was over the summer out in the East Coast as well. So just kind of hitting it home. And here's just some screenshots from the Twitter hack that if anybody has a Twitter account, they probably saw these attacks. Pretty crazy. Literally that entire attack was just because a Twitter employee who had kind of administrative access to all of these backend portals got tricked by somebody else to just give them their login. So it really just kind of boils down to, you can have the biggest, best technologies in place, but at the end of the day, it's that person-to-person interaction that can really cause a breach. And in this case, some of the biggest accounts in the world, Barack Obama, Jeff Bezos, like they got hacked, and that's pretty terrifying. So, but I hope I'm not installing too much fear. It is scary, but there are kind of solutions for it. So just in case, this is really just kind of a 101 slide here, just in case everyone's not fully aware of some of the terminology that I might use. Really, how these attacks happen is a term called social engineering. And that really is somebody just using deception, manipulation, fear, strong emotions, pulling on all those levers to get somebody to do something that the hacker or the criminal wants you to do instead of maybe the right thing. So we've all gotten the fake phone calls from the CIRA saying you're going to be under arrest if you don't send me Amazon gift cards. That is a social engineering attack. That is a phishing attack. There's a lot of ways that these attacks can exist. So everything from somebody pretending to be somebody's boss and saying, hey, I need you to pay this invoice for me, asking for passwords or for logins, asking somebody pretending to be like your partner or a family member, pretending to be your bank, somebody dropping a USB stick in front of your office. There's a lot of different ways that these attacks can exist, but they really all just live under the bucket of social engineering, which is just tricking people to give them access to some information, whether that's logins or passwords or other personal information that can be used to break into some sort of account. And this is when I was saying earlier, the 93% of all attacks are targeting people. It's because of these types of attacks, of social engineering attacks. So that's kind of the one of the problems. All these problems are really amplified these days because of COVID-19 and from work from home. On screen is just a variety of different kind of challenges that small businesses are facing, whether you're like a small mom and pop shop or you're even just like a small business like CIRA with 100 employees. So many businesses are going online for the very first time. And I can't understate how big of an opportunity this is, obviously, but it's also a big technical and security challenge. For the first time, you might have a website, or you might have a payments processing method like a Square reader or a POS system. Putting those online for the very first time opens you up to new types of attacks. So your website could get hacked. You might have a social media account now, and that could get hacked. Your payment portal could be a sketchy one. It might not be something like Square or Shopify, and maybe that gets hacked. You're now relying on other people that they could get hacked, like your website or your website provider or your POS provider. And I think the kind of the underlying challenge with all this is that a lot of small businesses just don't have a lot of IT support. And that really comes into play when we're talking about people now working from home, using personal devices, personal networks. Even if you have an IT team, you can't really own all those things. If I'm an IT person, I can't really tell Lindsay how to use her iPad, or I can't tell her kids what to do, right? So those are some of the remote work challenges, and IT, whether you have it or not, that's going to be a constant challenge. And I think the other big challenge with COVID-19 specifically is people are just stressed, they're exhausted, they're anxious, they're scared. Some people are fighting the disease itself. They have family members who are sick, or they're just seeing it in the news, and all of that really kind of takes a mental toll on you. And when that happens, you're just more likely to fall for all these fake calls, fake emails. I know we've seen some of the data within our own kind of platform, this platform for all of our customers across Canada, and we saw click rates and open rates for phishing emails, simulated or not, just tick up once April and May happened. And might not be as big of a problem on the East Coast because you guys are doing a lot better than we are here in Ontario, but very much a real thing happening in Ontario. I think some of the stats I've seen are COVID-19 related scam emails have gone up like 3 to 6 times over the last several months compared to just normal scam emails. So definitely a massive problem. So now that I have thrown so many problems and so many fear-inducing statements at you guys, I really do want to talk about the good stuff, which is how you can actually solve these problems. And training is really a very cost-effective and a very easy way to just get these problems protected, but also getting these risks mitigated, not just inside your business, but into the home as well. Technology at the end of the day really is just almost a mitigation process. It's hoping that your spam filter makes an email not come in. Even our DNS firewall, if you click on something, you're hoping that our firewall will block it. 99 times out of 100 it will, but there are always those random, day one attacks that nobody's ever seen before. Sometimes they'll slip through the cracks. So what education does is it makes people aware of what these problems are, and it brings them up to an understanding and awareness level that says, hey, that email from my boss asking for Amazon gift cards feels a little weird, and maybe I shouldn't just blindly do it, right? Or my grandma is messaging me on Facebook again asking for gift cards. Like, these seem suspicious, and education is really about preventing those attacks before they even happen. So they might come in, and your employee is now aware enough to say, hey, I'm going to report this to my IT team, or I'm going to delete this email. I'm going to not take that phone call. I'm going to turn it off. Generally, this is more proactive, and it really hits the core of that like 93% problem. It's crazy how many like fake emails a small business can get. We're 100 people at CIRA. We get 90,000 to 100,000 spam a month. Not all those are attacks. Some of those are just spam, but we get a lot of emails for a 100-person company. So even if only a handful slip through the cracks against every employee, all it takes is one click. So what training really does is educating about what the risks are out there. What is social engineering? What is privacy? What is a ransomware attack? But more importantly, how to identify these problems, not just know that they exist, and then what they should do when they think they're being targeted, or when they see that attack sitting in their inbox or sitting in their SMS inbox. That's really the core of it there. So with our platform, that means reporting it. So either we as CIRA, or if it's an organization running this for themselves, their IT team can triage it and block it on their end. But really, it's just about not letting anything come through in the first place. So that's kind of what training is. I'll talk a little bit more about what our training looks like, because again, training is a whole category. Most businesses across Canada do some type of training. We do a cybersecurity survey every year, and we found that like 94% of Canadian businesses do some form of cybersecurity training. But that could be a fancy platform like ours. That could be a PowerPoint presentation that somebody gives once every 2 years. That could just be a little email newsletter that somebody from an IT department is sending out. There's a wide range of what that training looks like, and our goal is to provide businesses with like a really good modern training solution. And that's kind of what you're seeing on the screen here. This is actually the personal dashboard that every single person in your team would get. What makes this dashboard so powerful is that there's like that big score right in the middle. And really the philosophy that we take is trying to make training a little less boring, a little more engaging. Like, yes, they're going to get courseware. Yes, they're going to get testing, but having that score there makes it so they actually have a little bit of a context to grab onto. They can actually see every time that they complete a course, their score will improve. Every time they report a phishing test, their score is going to improve. And that goes a long way to providing some context to your program. It really just, it gets people bought in more. And the benefit of that is that when somebody's bought in, they're more likely to retain that knowledge. So if you only do, a lunch and learn, pizza lunch and learn once every couple of years, what happens when that fake email comes in 6 months later? Are they going to retain that information? Chances are they won't. But if the training's engaging, it's year round, they're more likely to know what to do. The rest of the dashboard really just shows them what they've done in the past and what they need to do next. So if you've given them a handful of courses, they know which courses to do next. There's not really any management on the business's end. But I think what's really powerful about this platform is that we've really kind of automated the whole thing for the small business. So, as Chris was saying when we started this, this platform is provided by Bostrom from your neck of the woods. So they've kind of built a platform. We resell it to some other organizations, and they just kind of take the product and they just do their own thing with it. But what we've really done is we've kind of carved out our own version of the platform where small businesses can hop on and they don't have to manage anything. So everything that the big businesses would get, training courses, phishing tests, small businesses will get that as well. but the big difference is that it's fully automated and there's no management at all. So really the involvement is you as a business owner would add your employees to our platform, and then the platform does all the work. It'll give out a bit of an onboarding curriculum. So I think our default is 4 courses that kind of train on the basics across regulation and ransomware and social engineering, basically all the cores that you should be caring about. But then it'll also provide an actual phishing test every single month. So every month, your employees will get a random test. It'll be a random test for every single employee. So somebody might get a FedEx delivery, somebody might get a BMO invoice. So you're going to get all these different tests, and that's really to reinforce training throughout the year. But I really can't understate how automated and easy it is at this point. It's really just uploading your users. They'll all get an email saying, hey, click here to log in. Here's your score. The platform will walk them through how the platform works and what their score means and all that stuff. And there really isn't any more work beyond that for the business owner. It's super easy. I think there's a few things that the business owner can do to beef up the training if they will. I think as Chris was saying, you can go in and do more courses if you want. Your employees can go in and do more courses if there's something that's interesting in there. So for example, there's a bunch of courses in there about how to protect yourself at home, how to protect your family. If you're a student, how do you protect yourself? So there's a large library. We've kind of made a curriculum that's just pre-built for you to get started, but there's a lot of courses there that you can really pick and choose what is important for you and your business. So for example, there's a PCI course. So if you are really just starting with payments, there's a course there that you can take and it'll teach you the basics of PCI. So you do that correctly. If you're building out your social media presence for the very first time, there's a social media security course that you can add as well. A large library there. We're adding it all the time. It's very Canadian, I think is very important as well. Part of that engaging people part is that the courses actually reflect Canadian laws, Canadian regulations, Canadian examples. The phishing tests that your employees will get will also have Canadian examples. So you're going to see Amazon gift cards, you're going to see Apple IDs, you're going to see all that stuff, but you're also going to see Canada Post, CRA, CERB. You're going to see those. And it's really important that you see these Canadian examples because those are the actual types of attacks that a Canadian will receive. It doesn't make sense for a Canadian to receive a Bank of America email. Like they're not going to click on that because they don't live in America. They're not going to have a Bank of America account generally. So it's really important that you get those Canadian examples in there. And our platform has all those for you. I'll just show off kind of a couple screenshots of what some of our courses look like. All of our courses are pretty interactive. Some of them have.
John, sorry to interrupt you. There's a quick question. What does PCI stand for?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't remember either. I think it's like a payments compliance something. How about I just look straight at the screen and use my millennial skills to Google it while we are all, looking at me. I always just see it as PCI compliance. I don't actually know the full term for it, but PCI is the acronym for all the regulations and compliance that you have to follow as a business when it comes to processing payments and handling payments. So how do you document that credit card information? What technologies do you need to have in place to manage that information? That is what PCI compliance is.
Yeah, the acronym is PCI is Payment Card Industry.
Payment card industry. I got one of them right.
Hey, you were right on. You were right on, but that is what the acronym is. Yeah.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
No worries.
So that's an important course for anybody who's really just starting out with, especially online payments for the very first time. Absolutely critical. It's a law you have to follow. So I would check that out. Kind of in our courseware, large library, our courses are pretty interactive. So there's, drag and drop elements. There's some fill in the blank kind of things. Here's an example of a spear phishing course where it's kind of explaining what a spear phishing example is. Every course has a quiz tied to it. The courses will provide feedback. So if your employee got the question wrong, if they got it right, it'll explain more about that. So there's a little bit more reinforced learning there. The phishing tests I think are really powerful. That's really the lived experience. You can throw presentations at your employees all day, but if they don't actually get a little bit of hands-on experience, that knowledge won't stick. So as I was saying, our platform launches these fake phishing emails every month to all of your staff. Here's an example of one that we did. This one was a bit more of a custom one that we did for ourselves, but the idea is the same. And the platform will teach your employees like how to look for all of the things that I've highlighted. So looking for the email address, looking for the sender name, looking at the links, all of those things. If your employee does get a phishing simulation from the platform, there is a little button that they'll add to their email client, and they can just click on that to report it. If they successfully report it, the platform will handle all the notifications and the measurement of that, so you don't have to worry about anything. And if it's a real incident, I think that just gets punted to our IT team and they look at it for you. But I think that's kind of really the core of the platform. There's a lot there. I'll kind of let Lindsay close off, but I know that we can always book little one-on-ones as well if you need to see a little bit more of the platform. But yeah, that's kind of the core of it. I'll let Lindsay close it off.
Yeah, and I was just in the middle of typing to all there, just saying, it was a good question about PCI and the different topics that are covered just beyond your run-of-the-mill, like, what does a phishing email look like? You know, what's a bad actor? That type of stuff is what we call fundamentals. And the fundamentals are critical. I think that even people who've had training before need a refresher on the fundamentals. But what you actually gain, and I'm going to look at your question in a second here, Krista, or comment, here is an ability to kind of identify what you're dealing with. So depending on your company size, like, I'm not sure about the audience here, if you're all super small business, if you're medium business, it doesn't really matter. Actually, this service we've got customers from 2 employees up to thousands of employees leveraging this service, and both run directly. They actually pursue the financial services industry quite closely. They've actually got a couple large banks. I don't know which ones, actually, that's a secret. But that's it. There's a lot you can cover in this platform, and it gives you a lot of power to also inform your users of things that might be relevant to your business. So you can actually customize content if you want. You don't have to. You can just like literally set it and forget it and not think about it. But if you want to get super involved, if you're interested in this kind of thing, you want to really fish your staff, you can. And yes, Krista, I can definitely help you with how to report phishes. So how this will work, and this is something I'll just quickly cover, and then please do ask questions if you have them. How we typically onboard, we'll use the example of a smaller business. So Fredericton Chamber of Commerce is what we would call a smaller business, right? You've got about 10 people on board. I can't recall, maybe 7. Yes, 6. Okay, perfect. So how we do this is we have a solution specialist, Richard, who will onboard your email addresses into our platform. We offer a managed service. So we own the service, and and your staff onboards with however many email addresses you have within your staff. At that time, everybody gets put through the same process, which is a perceptions and awareness questionnaire. And then you get put through 4 training courses and 3 sample phishes. So those would be like, practical learning to what you've just had your education on. So it's like, hey, what does a fish look like? You're going to get a fish, you're going to learn. And then in this case, Krista, what you would do, and this is something I'll work with Richard to make sure he informs, is you have an email address where you can report the fish back. So you basically forward the email back to, I think it's phishing@cira.ca, I'll double check. And that will get you sort of credit as a user that you reported a fish, good job. It also gives you freedom for the ongoing months to continue to report and make sure that you don't click things. So you have sort of an avenue to check against what kinds of risks your organization is exposed to. This service, just so you know, with respect to companies under about 25 people, costs about $40, well, not about exactly $40 per user, per year, not per month. And then if you are larger, then we would just work with you to figure out a custom quote. It's not, it's just, there's economies of scale. And once you get bigger, it might make more sense for you to manage your own tenant. So that's sort of the details. You're welcome to book a call with us. And of course, that's my email address. I'm the gateway to everything at CIRA, it seems, with respect to small business. So please do email me with anything that you're wondering about, including other services that you might see on our website or questions you might have. So I'm going to take a pause and stop talking and open the floor. Does anybody have any questions? Is there more I can tell you? What can we answer?
So I think since we're a small group today, we can put questions in the chat, or if anybody has questions, maybe John, I'll get you to stop sharing your screen so that we can all see each other again. And anybody who's interested can turn on if they haven't got their camera turned on so we can see each other. But I think now's a great time for people to do verbal questions if they want. And if anybody from my team wants to mention any experiences that they've had with the program so far that would be helpful for those online, that would be great. I will tell a funny story. Just this week, I received what I felt strongly was a scam email or invoice. But something rang a bell, like it was kind of vaguely familiar. So I deleted it, marked it as spam or whatever. But I did forward it to Christine and said, I'm confident this is a fake email. Don't click on it. Don't open it. This is not a real invoice. I'm really sure. But she kindly messaged me back and said that in fact is a real invoice. We actually do owe that money. And thank you for forwarding it to me and not just deleting it permanently and getting us in a situation of being in collections or something of that nature. So I'd like to err on the side of overcautious, I guess. But if ever the chamber doesn't pay a bill to you that we owe you, maybe just reach out because we're being overcautious. But do we have any questions? Do we have any questions from any of you? Mark, you always have a question.
Put me on the spot or anything, Krista. Jeez.
No pressure.
Nothing comes to mind, unfortunately. Sounds like a great service. It's definitely something that's people need to pay attention to. I mean, I don't know how many emails a day that are some sort of phish or spam or something like that. I mean, I do business development, so they probably go on our website and, oh, he's a businessy guy, let's send him a invoice or something along the lines. We had I don't have a question, but maybe I'll do the same as Krista. I'll tell an amusing story. We had a new staff start a few years ago, and he got an email from Jill Green, who was our CEO, our boss, basically saying, "Oh, can you go buy me some Google gift cards? I need you to do it right away." And he was new enough. He'd only been here for about a week. He kind of was like, he came to me and asked, like, do I need to go buy? He forwarded me the email, but of course it was phishing. But almost ended up going and buying some gift cards for all of us. But anyway, no real questions, guys. I mean, it sounds like a great service. It's good to see a local company. Actually, one of our board members is supplying the training. That's kind of cool. And as Krista said, we're trying to build a cybersecurity hub here. I guess we are. So maybe you guys should move down here. Maybe that's my question is why in Ottawa you should come to Fredericton.
I don't know.
with the rate of how the rate of COVID's looking in Ontario, it's increasingly a good idea.
I have a question for you, and this is actually a question about like a behavior. So it's not about your platform per se. I get a lot of random emails from people who say, hi, Krista, we have an SEO solution for you, or, we are looking for an agent for our company in your community. Would you be interested? Please email us back. And I usually delete them. For some reason, my email platform actually does not, I can mark them as junk, but I can't block them for some reason. So then sometimes they will re-forward it and say, not sure if you got my email, but I'm trying again. And then I might get it 3, 4, 5, 10 times from the same person harassing me basically. And since I can't block them, but I can just mark it as junk, maybe or maybe not, it continues into junk after that. Should I reply and say, unsubscribe me or take me off this list or stop emailing me? My fear is if I do that, I'm actually proving to them that they've got a live one. But if I don't do it, I just keep getting these annoying and harassing emails. What should I do?
Good question for the marketer, John.
I was gonna say, I've got a lot of opinions on it because I'm and Lindsay, you can plug yours on this, but I am very violent towards deleting sales emails. And I say this as somebody on a marketing and sales and business development team, but there are good salespeople. Lindsay's great. She doesn't harass, but I see those as well. I just delete personally and mark as spam and junk because, and try to block if I can on my platform, because I just find it personally annoying, and I would rather block them to not give them satisfaction. There's a lot of weird laws when it comes to email, specifically in Canada, where if your email is on the website, so for example, if you're CEO of the chamber, your email's on the website, legally anybody can actually just email you if it's about a service that's relative to you and your business. So if they're saying like, hey, you're CEO of this chamber, we want to pitch you SEO services or website services, that's actually legally okay. And it's kind of annoying, but that's just the reality of you having your email on a website. So if you email them back and say, hey, please stop emailing me, unsubscribe, might work, but they also kind of don't really need to stop. It's kind of annoying. It's a weird gray area of email laws, but I would just say, hopefully get an email tool that can let you block them, and then just
we
not
have
answer them.
Outlook, but we're on Macs, and it seems we've been told by our service providers that there is no way to permanently block people. So that seems like not an answer. Like there should be a way to do it. I feel confident there is, but we have not discovered it. So if in your journeys you figure out a way to stop it, maybe you'd let us know.
Yeah, we do have a partner. Well, they're not a partner. They're just someone I recommend who is Canadian, and I'll take a look and see if they do a little bit of tailored blocking. I know they do spam filtering, essentially. They're actually out of Quebec, and they're called Zero Spam. We're using them now internally, but I've referred them to many of our partners who are looking for a Canadian.
I get also a lot of emails that go into my junk, which are not junk, and I mark them. This is not junk. And then it seems like anything that is going out to a list, like everything from the Chaleur Chamber is an example. Everything from Ignite, Fredericton, and Planet Hatch, which are local economic development agencies. There's a few like that every time they come in, they go in my junk. Every time I check my junk about every second day because so much goes in there. Our spam filters are so high, which is great, but I can't seem to get them not to go in there. So again, that might be something that if you guys could give us some recommendations, but I'm going to stop asking questions.
Yeah.
Email's a weird world. Well, at CIRA, I help do a little bit of this, but it's a different team. But like we send emails to every .ca holder. So, that's about, I think 1.8 million people or something like that. In my last role, I managed email lists for several 100,000 people as well. And it's one of those things where if you're a business with a bad email reputation, you can sometimes that's just a problem that you've got to tackle over time. For example, if your website gets hacked or your domain gets hacked, and it gets throwing out malware and stuff to other people at one point in time, even though you fix that, the internet at large thinks, hey, this domain's actually kind of bad. Maybe we should block those emails, or maybe we should put them into spam. That's just a reputation problem, and it just takes time to solve that. So fingers crossed for the people who were spamming you before. If they do enough of that and they get spammed enough, they will also fall into that bucket. So there's a lot of tools out there that you can check reputation scores. If you're a small business, pop your domain in, it'll say what the internet at large thinks of your domain, and if it's good or if it's bad. And if it's bad, I recommend changing some of your email practices.
Actually, and I'll just kind of jump in. We had a similar issue with our emailing out. It was always landing in junk, and we had to connect basically our domain name to the email service, like through, I forget the technical terms for it. It was a bit of an adventure for someone who's not quite in that world, but we did get it done. So it might be something, alerting those businesses, you might want to check out, yours keeps landing in junk, even though I can't do anything about it. Mm-hmm. And on that note, I did have a quick question. Training for phishing emails, is I would say 90% of the battle. But is there anything that you would recommend putting in place process-wise as business owners to kind of help along, that process? So I know sometimes like external emails kind of have a little red flag to go, hey, this is an external email. Like if you think it's phishing, please report it to, this email. Like, are there things like that that you think are effective, or do they tend to just get ignored because people see them, you know, way too often, that they no longer become relevant? Or
it's a good question. I think it's one of those things where cybersecurity, I think, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So you're always going to have new tools here and there, new processes here and there. But I think at large, the idea is to slowly build up that kind of culture of awareness. So for example, with training, a very powerful thing with training is to start it from day one. So when an employee starts, it's actually part of their onboarding, just like WMIS or AOTA if you're for accessibility here in Ontario. So kind of kicking that into the actual day-to-day operations of the business, I think is super important. Definitely like those tools like the external email flag. We have that at CIRA as well. It's great. There's also just some like kind of simple tools out there. Like we sell a DNS firewall. So basically we act as kind of like a firewall that's off of your systems. It's at the network layer, the DNS layer, and that helps some things as well. Canadian Shield is exactly that as well. So that's a free tool that your users can use at home. Same idea. When it comes to business processes, I think it's thinking about cybersecurity in mind. So for example, the example Krista gave, gets a spam email in saying, hey, pay this invoice. So she emailed that to somebody else. What happens if that other person that she forwarded to is actually hacked? That's a pretty common process, I guess, from the scamming side, where somebody will impersonate, like say a CEO and say, hey, send me all this money. If you reply back to the CEO and say, hey, is this real? Well, if that email is compromised, they're going to respond back and say, no, I'm not hacked, but they actually are. So, so for example, with that process, something that might be better is using an alternate form of communications. So say somebody calls the other person and says, hey, I just got this email. Is that legit? And then they can say, no, it's not. Or in person, you can walk over to their desk and say, hey, did you send me this invoice? And then they can say yes or no. So I feel like I'm kind of throwing a lot of half answers, but I think it's start things like training and thinking about security from day one with your staff, and then think about it as you implement different processes and different kind of ways of doing your business, and just kind of folding it into those molds. That'll go a long way, I think. But in terms of free tools, password managers are great and free. I think that's a silver bullet. That's I think a very powerful, easy, cheap tool to implement. Some basic firewalls, those are usually free, if not very cheap as well. They go a long way. Training, I think, is another example of a cheap solution that's very easy to implement as well. You don't have to go out there and find these like crazy cybersecurity vendors to those are really, in my opinion, a little bit more leaning towards an MSP or a provider who will actually help you do a lot of things, or for larger businesses. But if you're just a small business, there's a lot of free things out there. Training, password managers, those are the first things I would look at as a business owner.
Thank you.
Any other questions? We're getting close to our time, and I want to say thank you so much to Lindsay and to John. I want to say thanks also to Liam for joining us from Huddle, and I'm looking forward to a great story about this. And I know there's a number of people here on the call that will probably be open to talking to you if you wanted to talk to them about what they learned or what they think or their thoughts towards cybersecurity and what small businesses need to do. But John and Lindsay, that was a great presentation. And we're so happy to have this new benefit and service for our members, and encourage all of you to have good cyber security hygiene, but also consider hopping on this new program to support your team and to help train them the way that we have. I can't believe I thought I was pretty smart about cybersecurity, and I've noticed since I've been doing this training, I've learned a lot. So there's a lot to learn. Anyhow, if there are no further questions, comments, or smart remarks that anybody would like to share, I would say we're going to close it for today. John has just put a link in the blog or in the chat. So if you want to grab that link before we sign off, and remember that this session, like all of our sessions, has been recorded, and we'll be sharing it on our social media as well as on our YouTube channel. John's got another.
I really should have sent these out beforehand. Yeah, I sent out a blog post